Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen here at Chickadee Farm. Tonight we are going to be making some beef bone broth because I have a large bag here of bones from our prime rib. So I want to get them in the pot boiling away. It will take probably all night tonight and most of the day tomorrow, simmering in the broth to get all of the goodness out of it. But I do want to get it started. So I'll get that going, and then it's actually almost dinner time. So along with leftover bones, we also have leftover prime rib. So I found a fun recipe for a beef stroganoff using leftover prime rib, and I thought I would give it a go. So let's get going. I actually want to get started getting the water boiling for the noodles for the stroganoff. So let's get that filled up. We will end up doing some switcheroos here on the pots, but I do want to get it started. And I definitely one of those people that heavily salt my pasta water. I just think it makes the pasta taste so much better. All right, have that going. And then the bones themselves, I'm not too concerned about getting them a good sear. Normally, I would do that on the raw pieces that we also have. However, they've been sitting in our garage, and we've had very, very cold temperatures. Actually, I think our low temperature yesterday was 1 degree Fahrenheit. So very cold. Our garage gets very cold, so they're frozen solid. So I'm just going to put everything in the pot and give it a go. I think with because we actually smoked this prime rib, so those bones are gonna have a ton of flavor to impart. I'm not super concerned about that. All right, next we need onion and some herbs, and then and water, of course, and we'll just get it simmering. I will be adding water to this as it simmers down, because like I said, this is going to have to go for quite some time. So we are going to start it on high to get it simmering. And then I'm just going to cut this onion in half. Actually, I am going to cut the end off because it came from my garden. So there's probably still dirt in there, but I'm going to leave the peels on otherwise. And then I'm going to throw a couple cloves of garlic in as well. Mostly I'm going just for the beef flavor, so I'm not going to put a ton of stuff in here, but I do just want to give it a little extra. Pop those in, a nice handful of black peppercorns, probably a tablespoon or so. A bay leaf or two. Definitely some rosemary. I think I'll probably just use the rest of this because there's not very much left. And I think that's it. I think that's all we're going to add. Oh, a little salt. Let's add a little salt, shall we? I'm not going to add much because, usually when you're using your beef broth, you are going to be seasoning it at the time you're using it. So you don't really need to add a ton of salt now. And yeah, we're just going to let this come up to a simmer, and then actually going to put it back on this little tiny burner back here and just put a lid on, let it go. All right, so while that is starting to heat up, let's get some of our prime rib chopped up. She said about 6 ounces. So I'm going to guess. I'm not going to pull out my scale and measure it. I lied. I want to know. I'm going to weigh it. All right. Tear this out. That is 10 ounces. No. Yes, that is 10 ounces. Okay. A little too much. All right, I'm going to go with 8. A little extra prime rib never hurt anyone. What are your favorite Christmas dinner leftovers? And do you do a turkey? Do you do prime rib? Do you do a ham? It's interesting that Thanksgiving is always a turkey. Like almost nobody does anything but a turkey, maybe add a ham. But Christmas can be pretty widely varied, which is fun. I'm just going to give this a chop into bite-sized pieces, but nothing fancy. You're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter and let that melt up all nice. And then we will add 2 tablespoons of flour. And this is basically just to thicken the gravy. You're making a roux. This is a half tablespoon measurement, so I'm going to put 4 of them in. And we'll just mix that into the butter and basically let it cook off the raw flour flavor. And just needs about a minute. Next, we are going to add some thyme and sage, just a half teaspoon each. It also calls for tarragon, but that I don't have any tarragon, and I don't really have anything that's similar to it. So we will just go with the thyme and sage. It does call for ground sage, so I am going to crush this up quite a bit. Just going to let that mix in. Next, we're going to add 1.5 cups of beef broth. This is 2 cups. I'm just going to use the 2 cups, but because I don't know what I would do with the rest of it. This beef broth is actually from the broth I made from last year's prime rib bones. I also got this fun little new can opener in my stocking. I love it. All right, then we need about a half a tablespoon of Dijon, and it calls for 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. I seriously don't understand how we don't have Worcestershire. So like I said, I'm going to use my homemade HP sauce. And because when I looked up substitutions, the top substitution is soy sauce, but I don't really want full on that flavor. So I'm going to use a little bit of, well, we don't use soy sauce because I can't have it, but liquid aminos. So I'll do probably about maybe half a tablespoon of the liquid aminos just to give it that extra umami kick that my HP won't have. And then we're just going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes. Let all the flavors meld. And then we'll add the meat and the sour cream. Super simple, right, guys? You always kind of think of beef stroganoff as being this super fancy meal. And I suppose when you're making it from scratch, if you are making it with like steak, so you have to sear all the meat and everything, it is definitely more time consuming. You can always make it with hamburger. Oh, I also do need to add some good amount of black pepper. And we will taste for salt after it's bubbled away here for a bit, just because I think we probably don't need to add any. Turn this down. All right, I'm going to turn the water back up here for the noodles, get it boiling, and get the noodles going. As you can see, our bone broth is boiling, so we are going to turn that down pretty low. We definitely want to go low and slow with that. And our water, oh, that was the wrong burner. I always do that with these burners. This is the right burner. And then we are going to get our egg noodles into the water. Some of these are homemade. I am going to add, there's some different ones in here. If you watched my pasta making video, I tried my hand at making some orecchiette, and I don't know how long those would take to cook, so I'm going to do those differently. I did add maybe about a quarter of a cup of white wine to this as well, which is not in the recipe, but I think a little wine always adds flavor. So we are going to give this a taste test for seasoning, and then we will add the beef. That's good. You can definitely tell I didn't use Worcestershire, but it still tastes good. All right, let's get our beef in here. I'm going to turn this up a bit. Just get that stirred in and heated through. It does not need much time. Our noodles are done, just in the sink straining the water out. So I have brought this back up to temperature, and we're going to turn off the heat and then add about a quarter cup of sour cream. And you want to make sure that whatever you're adding sour cream to, whether it's stroganoff or any other hot dish, that it is not actually boiling when you add the sour cream, because it will split. It won't affect the flavor at all. It will just kind of look a little grainy. It won't, and it also won't be grainy like on your tongue, the texture. It just doesn't have the best look to it. That's all. So you just want to make sure your heat is off and your whatever it is you're adding it to isn't boiling. Just get that incorporated, and then we will get it served up. Going to put a little sprinkle of our freeze-dried parsley on top. And now let's give it a taste test. Get a little bite of everything, a noodle, some of the prime rib, lots of sauce. That's good. Yeah, definitely. I would love to try this recipe again with Worcestershire sauce. But that's okay. We are going to thoroughly enjoy this. So, bon appetit, and I will bring you back when the broth is ready to get canned. Hey guys. It has been a little bit since we started our beef broth, but it is time now to get it strained and get it in jars and canned. So thought I'd bring you along for that. And first things first, need to get it strained. I did take off quite a bit of the fat already, but you can kind of see here, there is still some on there. So I'm gonna take that off as well. And that's one of the reasons that why you want to like let it chill all the way, because then all the fat separates and hardens and it's really easy to take off, because you don't really want to can very much fat in your broth. Well, typically it's easy to get it off. It's kind of glued itself to the edges of the pan here. Actually, should have used a bigger bowl than this, because now I'm going to fish out all of the bones and stuff as well. Although I don't want all that fat to go to the chickens, so that's probably a good thing. But they will enjoy the little bits of meat still left in here. It's easier to take out all of the bones and stuff first, like the big chunks of things, so it doesn't splash all over as you pour it through a colander. All right, I think that's most of it. Nope, it's a rather large bone. It's actually quite a bit of meat in this. Maybe I should pull it all off. Maybe do something with it. All right, well, we'll think about that. I typically like to strain this several times, but this first one I'll just do, get a better grip here, just through with this sieve to get all the rest of the big chunks out. And then I will actually get some cheesecloth and put that in the sieve and run it through a couple more times. I don't think I need very much of this. That should be good. Oop. Unless I tip it all over the place. It's also much easier to handle the straining back and forth if the broth is not boiling hot. However, we will heat it back up before it goes into the canner, or into the jars. As soon as you do put cloth in to strain, though, you do kind of have to help it through, because it gets clogged up with all the stuff you're trying to strain out. And then before I strain it back into the bowl, I will wash this out. But so you can see there's all kinds of gunk in there. I mean, it's just like the spices and bits of meat and stuff that if you want a nice clear broth, you want to get that out of there. Actually, it did just hear a trick. Yesterday I was watching some YouTube, Living Traditions. She was making chai tea, but she mentioned that it's, if you get your cloth wet when you're straining through cloth, the liquid actually goes through easier. I just remembered that as I was rinsing it out. And you can see much, much less. So I will do it one more time into this pot, and then we will get it back on the stove heating up. I'm gonna put a little bit of white vinegar in as well, because even though our water softener is now working, thankfully, so I'm not having as much trouble with it, but it will just help the jars not get all cloudy. Just like a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. All right, gonna go put this in the canner. Let's get some jars washed. These jars are all clean. They've been through the dishwasher, so I'm just going to rinse them out with soapy water. And yeah, so nothing special. This canner, well, all my canners actually get stored out in the garage, which my husband uses as a woodworking shop, so everything gets a little covered in sawdust, but it's fine. Just a quick wipe. And it's not like food is going to be touching any of it, so. All right, so this is my Presto digital pressure canner, and I actually have never used a stovetop pressure canner just because this one is so super easy. It's a little spendy, but if you're scared of pressure canning, which I definitely was, this thing kind of makes it foolproof. However, you do have to follow the instructions. So I'm going to look up, this is just my, the manual for this, and it has recipes in it. So I think that's boiling beef stock. All right. So hot pack, it tells you how to actually make the broth, and then leave 1-inch headspace, clean jar rims, secure with lids with bands, and then process pints for 20 minutes, quarts for 25. And yes, I still need to add time. I don't have to worry about pressure. This canner will take care of any pressure, but because I live at 5,000 feet, I do need to add 10 minutes to that. So we will be doing 30 minutes. And then I am going to, so that's next. So we're at pressure can, because you can actually water bath can with this as well. We're gonna pressure can. Nope, that's not what we're doing. Okay, pressure can, and then you just put the thyme in, and then you put the jars in while it's heating up so that the jars get all nice and warm. You do not want to put cold jars in hot water, and you don't want to put hot broth into cold jars because you will definitely have breakage, and nobody ever wants to clean that up. So I'm gonna grab the jars. You are supposed to fill them with a little bit of water so they don't float. It's much easier to stick them in and out. Oh, I can fit one more, so I'm gonna grab one more. All right, so once the jars are all warmed up, it'll beep again and let me know to take them out, dump the water out, put the broth in, and then they'll go back in, and we'll start the process. Just gonna take these all out and dump the water into the sink now, and get ready to fill them. When I water bath can with this, I can just dump the water right into the pot, but can't do that when pressure canning. And our broth is nice and hot. I have new clean lids ready to go. Let's just get filling. You know what? It'd be so much easier to use a measuring cup. That would have taken forever. I believe that is 1 inch of headspace. Yes, maybe just a tiny bit more. couple of these off here. I have almost exactly the right amount of broth, which is amazing. Look at that. Not even a half cup. All right. Now we just need to make sure the rims are very, very clean and there's nothing on them, like this one. Just get them right in the water. Just a reminder, you only want to do these finger tight. You do not need to crank down on them. And the reason you want to definitely make sure that this is clean is, although I did take off most of the fat and there you can't really see much fat in here, it is does still have fat in it. And you want to make sure that's definitely can affect your seals. Last one. And we are just going to get the lid on. Make sure that this is on vent for right now. And get this all sealed up. And it will start heating. And then as soon as it comes up to temperature and starts boiling, it will automatically vent for 10 minutes all by itself. And then it will beep at me. I'll turn this to can, which will seal everything off, and it will do its thing for 30 minutes. Once it has finished its cycle, like I said, 30 minutes, we're just gonna leave it here, and it needs to cool all the way down to basically room temperature before you even open the lid and take the jars out. So it does take a chunk of time, even if the actual canning time is only 30 minutes. The whole process probably is close to an hour and a half actually. For the cool down definitely takes the longest, but I don't have to do anything except turn the vent on to not venting. Really super simple. All right, and then I did end up picking the meat off of the bones that was left, and there's a decent amount here. So I think I'm going to make some beef enchiladas for dinner tonight. So I'm just gonna get them ready for right now, and then we'll just pop them in the oven when it's time to eat. This is gonna be super simple. I'm just going to chop the meat up a little bit more here. And I'll slice a little bit of onion, and then I have a can of my enchilada sauce that I made from our tomatoes this year. This definitely will not make many. I'm guessing maybe 4 or 5 enchiladas, but that's fine since it's just the two of us. We are still eating off of our onions from the garden, which is kind of fun. I think we probably have another 20 or so left. And I used all the little ones first, so mostly there are big ones left. All right, I don't want a ton of onion in there. Go. Just gonna pour a little bit of this in with the meat, and then I'm going to add a good handful of cheese, maybe 2 handfuls of cheese. I like cheesy enchiladas. Oop, making a mess. Maybe should have used a bigger bowl. And I'm just going to pour a bit of the enchilada sauce into the bottom of the pan here. Swirl it around a bit. Typically I use corn tortillas for this, and what I do is I kind of par fry them, deep fry them. Yeah, par fry. And I just don't want to go to the hassle of that right now. So we are just going to use flour tortillas. Actually, I might only make 3. Nah, I can get a 4th one in there. 4th one might just be more cheesy than beefy. Actually, looks like it will be the perfect amount. Then we will just pour the rest of the enchilada sauce over these guys. Make sure they're all nice and covered. And top generously with more cheese. Cover this with aluminum foil, and for now it will go in the fridge, but when it's time for dinner I'll put it in the oven probably at 365 or so for probably 20-25 minutes with the foil on, and then I'll take it off and let it get nice and bubbly and brown on top. And that is it. I think that's all we're going to do with our beef and beef bones. So actually we had a fairly sizable roast. I mean, if you saw the size of the bones, you would know. So we actually ended up putting some of it in the freezer to eat later as well. But we got, not only did we get Christmas dinner, but we got several roast beef sandwiches the next couple of days, and the stroganoff that I made a couple days ago, and then these enchiladas, plus all of the bone broth. So I think we did pretty darn good. I will let you see how the broth comes when it comes out of the canner, and maybe a quick look at our enchiladas after they're all bubbly and lovely. All right, guys, thanks so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.